There we are. Right. Hey everyone. This is a stream about. And I'll take off my headphones because I'm distracting myself with my own sound. This is a stream about black paint, basically, and specifically, it's about the question as to whether or not you should. I'm gonna put the headphones around so I can hear my voice echoing, and it's distracting us. Yeah, it's about whether or not you should use black paint straight from the tube, or whether you should like mix your own black paint. That's an old you know what it is. I'm gonna unplug this fucking headphones. Hold on. There we go. Sorry, I'm distracting myself. Didn't get off to a good start there. Yeah. So in this stream, I'm going to be basically using some black paint straight from the tube. I'm also going to be mixing up various different what they call like chromatic blacks, where you kind of mix two different colors together to make black, or two or more different colors together to make black. And I'm just going to be like road testing this idea of you know, should you mix your own black, or should you use black straight from the tube? Spoiler alert, I actually, to be honest, like both of those arguments. Like, I think that like they've both got merits. I've used a lot of mixed chromatic black a lot in my own oil paintings, and I've also used black from the tube, and I think there's advantages and disadvantages of both. So that's what I'm going to explore in this stream. If you do see this stream live, like, feel free to get in the chat, because I'm not really expecting to have anyone actually watching this stream. So like, so I'll probably see your message. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. How long have I been streaming so far? Did I manage to start that? Right. I'm just wondering how quick I managed to get into it, because I'm always worried about like dilly-dallying around, taking too long. About nearly 3 minutes. That's not too bad. Right, let's have a look then. There we go. Right. So here is some lamp black. I'm just going to squeeze this out here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up my first chromatic black, which I'm going to make using some Prussian blue. Actually, instead of using Prussian blue, I'm going to use ultramarine blue, and I'm going to use burnt umber, and I'm going to mix up a black. Now, I think ultramarine blue and burnt umber is a very good black together, because those two colors cancel each other out. If you know about the color brown, the color brown is technically orange, but basically, if you desaturate the color orange, you get brown. And if you know your color wheel, you'll know that orange is opposite blue on the color wheel. So the color orange and the color blue cancel each other out. And because brown is technically orange, it means that cancels out really well with the I don't know, get rid of that bit. It means that cancels the blue out pretty well. So you generally get a fairly decent black by mixing these two colors together. And sometimes it leans very slightly towards one or the other color, but that's fine, because we can just add more of one or the other color in there if it does do that. And as you can see, we're sort of still a little bit brown over on this side, still a little bit blue over on this side, which means it's maybe not being mixed in that well just yet. So that'll do for now. Let's lay them out on the. I've got like a little piece of gessoed paper here. And let's actually paint with them. I'm not sure how well I can be heard in this stream, by the way, because I did have my headphones to check how well I could be heard, but my headphones were really loud, and I could like hear them echoing. That was what I was talking about at the start. I could sort of hear my voice echoing out in my headphones, and it was very distracting. So, but anyway, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of this mixed black that we've just mixed up. I'm going to put some of this down on this gessoed paper here, and let's see what it looks like. Hang on, I'll get out of the way of the camera there. Right, yeah, here we go. I mean, you can't really see a great deal. This light is also it's lamp light, so it's a little bit warm, the light, but it is also possible this is leaning a little bit warm. So yeah, definitely think that's leaning a little bit warm. So what you can do if you want to make it more, you know, more of a neutral black, is you can just put a bit more of the color that it's. If it's a bit too warm, if it's a bit too brown, you can just stick a little bit more blue in it. Or if it's a little bit too blue, you can just stick a little bit of brown in it, a little bit more brown, and then hopefully that'll sort it out. It's probably still going to lean a tiny bit brown, actually, this. But we'll see, we'll see. It can sometimes be hard to tell when you've just got the color by itself. Sometimes if you want to get it exactly neutral, you have to sort of mix some white into it to see what it looks like when it's grey. But to be honest, I think if you're mixing white into it specifically to tell whether it's a perfectly neutral black or not, then you're kind of missing the point, because it's not really what painting's about. It's not about being. It's all about perception. There we go. That's a much. Sorry, you can't see that, can you? That's a much more neutral black there. And that is a chromatic black that's made from mixing together ultramarine blue and burnt umber, and that's the black that I've used in a hell of a lot of my paintings. It's pretty decent. There is one big downside to this black here, the one made from burnt umber and ultramarine, and that's the fact that burnt umber is a pigment which dries very, very fast. So because this is made with burnt umber, this is going to dry really, really fast. So bear that in mind. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this. Hold on, I'll just clean up my brush with some kitchen roll here. I'll just grab it and give it a wipe. It doesn't have to be spotless. I'm not going to eat with it, but need to get it, most of the black off it there. This is about how much I would clean my brush if I was painting in between different colours. Obviously, I would clean it properly at the end of the painting session, but during the time when I'm painting, I would just get it clean enough so it's not putting any paint down on the surface. Right, so let's dip into this lamp black here. Lamp black. Can you see that? Lamp black. You can't really quite read it. The pigment is PB small k 6. So that's pigment black 6 for this one. And let's just put some of that down here. I'll put it up at the top. There we go. There we go. And as you can see, that is a little bit more black than this. This is leaning towards the brown a little bit, but it's about the same as this. This is just as black as this, I would say. I mean, judging by the naked eye, uh, which is how you would judge a painting. I mean, obviously the lighting in here is pretty bad. This is lamp light here and another lamp over here, so that's obviously going to add to it a little bit. But you can't really see black very well until you start messing around, adding a little bit of white to it as well. So let's add some other. Let's add some white in here, and let's see what these greys look like. So I'm just gonna squeeze out some white here. It's just some titanium white, linseed oil, pigment white 6. Actually, this has actually got some pigment white 4 in it as well, which is zinc white. So this is like titanium white with a tiny bit of zinc white in it, which a lot of titanium white is. But let's grab a little bit of this titanium white here, and let's start blending this into some of this black paint. So here we've got the mixture of burnt umber brown and ultramarine blue, and let's just kind of blend some white in there with it just to see what kind of grey that is. And it's a grey that's kind of matching the grey of the background, actually. maybe doing a grey background wasn't the best for this experiment, but there you go. Anyway, that's a nice grey there, very neutral grey as far as I can tell. Is it leaning slightly blue? I'm not sure. Doesn't look like it. It's not leaning too much blue. Let's clean off my brush and let's do the same thing again. So I'll go over here, I'll get some more of this titanium white here, and I'll put it in to this lamp black here, and let's see what the difference is. So, I mean, straight away there is one difference, which is just that the lamp black does feel different to this. This seems to have like a lower tint strength against the white. And by tint strength, just in case you don't know, what I'm referring to is like how strong that pigment shows up in a mix. You know what I mean? Like, so if you've got like a paint where you have to put like an absolute boatload of the paint into a mix in order for it to, in order for that pigment to come out in the mix, that means it's got a low tint strength. If you have to put only a teeny little bit of a pigment into a mix in order for that pigment to show up, that's counted as having a very high tint strength. And what I'm noticing about this lamp black here is that the tint strength with the lamp black seems to be a lot higher, much quicker. So the second I'm putting the second I'm mixing these together, I'm very quickly getting the white to a kind of a darker color of grey. Now, looking at these with my eye, and also actually looking at the screen there. Sorry, I do have a bit of a cough here. One thing that I noticed is this one is actually very, very blue compared to this one. Like you can really see the. I don't know if anyone watching this can see that as well, but this one seems to lean very blue compared to this one, at least. But it's still neutral enough that you can use this as grey very well. Now, the next thing to know is that why would you? Okay, so first of all, we've got a few questions to answer here. So, that anyone watching this might be asking, or that somebody who's trying to decide, you know, should I use actual black paint from the tube? Should I use something like lamp black, or should I use mixture of black? I think the first question is, why would you use black from the tube if you can, you know, this is a pretty decent black, so why would you spend extra money to get like another black pigment if you can just mix a black with burnt umber and ultramarine? And the answer to that is, so lamp black, this pigment here, is a fairly slow drying black. So the drying time of this black is going to be a lot slower than the drying time of this black, right? Now, what that means also is anything that you mix into this black, which has been made with burnt umber, which is a very fast drying pigment and will increase the drying time. I mean, sorry, decrease the drying time. It will speed up the drying time of anything that you mix. Anything that gets mixed with burnt umber basically is going to have a much faster drying time as a result of the fact that it's been mixed with burnt umber. So this is going to dry much, much quicker than this. Because this has only been mixed with, this is just titanium white, which is a fairly slow drying pigment. And you've also got lamp black, also a fairly slow drying pigment. This one's going to dry a lot slower than this one. So if you like to have a bit of a slower drying time, then this one would be the best one to go for. If you like to have a quicker drying time, this one would be fine. Now, the next thing to ask is, what are the benefits in terms of what are the benefits in terms of the actual color itself when it comes to mixing black versus using black straight from the tube? Now, a lot of people would say that the black that's mixed from the ultramarine and the burnt umber, that's better because you can tilt it towards the ultramarine, or you can tilt it towards the burnt umber, which means you can get a slightly you know, warmer black or a slightly cooler black. And they claim that it's harder to do that with the black straight from the tube. But I'm not so sure that's the case. So let's experiment a bit. So I said this black here was leaning a little bit brown. So let's get a little bit of white and let's actually see whether this is actually leaning towards the brown. Let's kind of mix some of this in here. Yeah, and it does seem to be leaning a little bit brown, I would say. But we can lean it more brown if we want to. I'll tell you what, let's get a bit over here. And let's lean this side a little bit more brown. I'll get a little bit more. Just drop the paint tube on the floor again. I'll get a little bit more of the burnt umber brown. Yeah, squeeze this out on the palette. And let's just lean that a little bit more towards the brown. And just see what that looks like. Well, that's very brown. Obviously, I'll kind of mix. Hold on, okay. The brush. Go. So obviously that's a grey that's being kind of leaned a little bit more towards the brown on that side. And what we could also do, let's just grab this and clean off the brush a little bit. Yeah, with this bit of kitchen roll. Wow, we've been going 21 minutes already. I thought this was going to be a fairly quick stream, but I've dilly-dallied quite a lot, it seems. Yeah, let's get some more of this black here, which is we've mixed to be more neutral. So this is some more of the black that we mixed using the ultramarine and the burnt umber. And I'm gonna get some more of this white here. It's gonna destroy the white a bit, but who cares? And let's mix the white in with it. And that's obviously more of a neutral, possibly slightly leaning blue. And let's lean that a little bit more blue. Let's squeeze out some ultramarine over here. And let's grab some of that ultramarine there and just let's do a teeny bit in there. That's going to lean it there, very blue. So I'll just clean off my brush a little bit just to clean off some of that ultramarine on my brush, because I think there's enough ultramarine in this mix to lean that quite far blue. Let's try and mix this in. And that's leaning a little bit more blue. We could possibly even push it even further. And you can just keep on going, really. I think this grey on the surface is quite blue. So that's kind of, it seems quite blue in this lighting anyway. We kind of keep going with this if we want, and keep on adding more blue to it, and sort of eventually we get like very, very blue. Obviously, it's more like a blue grey. But yeah, the theory is there that the fact that that's made out of ultramarine and burnt umber means that you can lean it in one direction or the other. You can lean it more towards the the blue, or you can lean it more towards the burnt umber brown. Make it more warm or more cool. Now we've got 2 people watching now, according to YouTube. So feel free to say hi in the chat if you want. But I'm alright if you just want to watch it as well. Got no idea how I sound, by the way, because like I said, I unplugged my headphones. I'm just recording it on me. I've got my tablet here. I'm just recording the sound on that. This camera here is plugged into my computer, so that's how I'm getting the 2 cameras there. Anyway, so the thing that people seem to like miss out when they talk about, oh, this is better because you can, you can tilt this towards the brown, you can tilt it towards the blue, etc., etc. The thing that people tend to miss out is like, why the hell can't you just mix other colors into this? If you want to like tilt this gray a little bit, why the hell can't you mix other colors? You know what I mean? Why can't you just like, I don't know, like get some burnt umber, for example? I mean, obviously the burnt umber is going to make this dry quicker, but if you want to get some burnt umber and just kind of mix that in with this mix here, I mean, surely you can just kind of bring that more towards the brown as well, and like, yeah, seems to work. Although I would say that this lamp black definitely has a stronger tint. There's a stronger tinting strength, so it's kind of, you're going to need a little bit more of every pigment to kind of there's a lighter grey down there at the bottom there. And this is already tilted a little bit blue, but we could tilt that even more blue. Let's just clean my brush a little bit. Let's tilt this more blue. I mean, that's very, very blue. But let's clean off my brush again, and let's get some more of that lamp black in there, just to grey it up a little bit. I mean, that's incredibly blue. Get some more white in there. Because the thing with this white is we are picking up a little bit of pretty much every pigment in this white at this stage, because I've kind of dipped my brush in there so many times. But there we go, we've got a more of a blue-grey there. So I mean, I've seen videos on YouTube where they're saying that, like, you know, this is much better than using black from the tube, because you can tilt this more towards either warm or cold. But I mean, you can do that with black from the tube as well. You can just mix other colors into it, you know what I mean? So I mean, it's not necessarily the case that that this is that much better than this. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning is the history of this. Now, mixing your own black and not using black from the tube, in this day and age, it seems almost like a, you know, a very, very, very traditional way of painting. However, it's actually newer than you would think, because mixing your own black rather than using black from the tube is something that gained popularity in the Impressionist era, as far as I know. And as far as I know, I think pretty much all of the old masters before the Impressionists used to just use, you know, straight black. They used to just find a good black pigment and use that. Part of the reason for that is because obviously blue was always a hard pigment to come by. Sorry, you know, ultramarine came in as a pigment. Lapis lazuli that was mined in Afghanistan. was the pigment that was in ultramarine. Modern ultramarine tends to be lab made, so it tends to not be made from genuine lapis-lazuli, or you can get lazuli. Sorry, not lapuli. God, I'm getting it wrong. Right, lapis-lazuli. Sorry. Yeah, modern ultramarine tends to not be made from lapis-lazuli. It tends to be made in the lab, but you can still get lapis-lazuli ultramarine if you want to. It's just a lot more expensive. But anyway, ultramarine was always very expensive in the time of the old masters. So the pigments that they had to choose from when it came to blue was azurite, which is where you get the name azure from, and smalt. And smalt and azurite are both quite fugitive pigments, as in they are pigments which will change over time. If you paint a painting and then stick it up on the wall for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's got a lot of azurite and smalt in it, those parts that you've painted with the azurite or the smalt will start to change color over time, whereas like with more modern pigments like ultramarine, or I mean like modern ultramarine, you know, the lab made ultramarine, or like lapis-lazuli as well. But like I said, lapis-lazuli was incredibly expensive back then. It still is now, but a little bit less so. And with Prussian blue, which Prussian blue is, from what I can tell, I mean, I've never used smalt as a pigment, but from what I can tell, Prussian blue seems to be a kind of similarish kind of color to smalt. And Prussian blue has more of a like archival light fastness. It's not gonna change color over time. And nor is ultramarine. So I think one of the reasons why people kind of move towards mixing a black rather than using black from the tube from the Renaissance onwards was kind of because of blue pigment, really. I think because of blue pigment becoming a little bit cheaper and a little bit better, you know, and also just, I mean, I don't think that was the whole reason. I think that was just one of the reasons, but I also think it's just like the fact that the Impressionists, for artistic reasons, wanted to mix their black rather than using it from the tube, because they thought that was more realistic. And we'll sort of explore that a little bit more in a bit, because I think one of the other things is when it comes to like not using black on your palette, I think one of the big advantages of that is that it kind of forces you to be a bit more creative in how you darken your colors, rather than just, you know, if you've got black, it might be tempting to just, you know, constantly be dipping into the black and, you know, always using that to darken your colors. And that could potentially result in all of your darks and your painting being very like boring, should we say, you know, very, very monotone. Whereas if you're darkening your colors in other ways, it can, you know, your darks can look a little bit more interesting and a little bit less grey, a little bit less muddy. And we'll explore that a little bit in this stream as well, actually, because like I'm not just gonna like mix these two blacks and then leave it at that. I'm gonna go into some other things as well. Now, I'll just clean my palette knife here. There we go. Another good mix, which is used a little bit less often. Let's have a look. Where have I put all my paint? Burnt sienna. That same mix that we had before, but with burnt sienna instead of burnt umber. And this burnt sienna it's always very difficult to open, but yeah, there's my burnt sienna. That's a Winsor and Newton burnt sienna. Slightly different to Jackson's burnt sienna. This burnt sienna. Now, burnt sienna is also generally quite a fast drying pigment, but you can buy certain manufacturers like Winsor and Newton who tend to like make the kind of faster drying pigments with safflower oil in order to slow down the drying time. So, you know, that's the reason why the Winsor and Newton burnt sienna is quite good, because it tends to dry a bit slower. Now, when it comes to burnt umber, I mean, burnt umber is such a fast drying pigment that it doesn't really make any difference. I mean, the burnt umber by Winsor and Newton is also made with safflower oil to try and slow down the drying time, but burnt umber is a very fast drying pigment, so like I said, it doesn't really make that much difference. But with burnt sienna it does. But we'll do this quite quickly because I think this is gonna, this is a mixture of black that I haven't really used as much as I've used the. I've got a lot of experience with this type of black, the type of black that you use with that you mix with burnt umber and with ultramarine blue. I don't have as much experience with this black. So let's see. Now I think I'm probably going to need a little bit more blue, a little bit more ultramarine with this black, because this is going to lean very brown, I think, a little bit more. Although it doesn't look like it's too bad straight away. Yeah, that looks all right. Right, let's put a little bit of that down on the page here. Pull this into view again. It's actually quite a nice neutral black. That actually, it's not as brown as I thought it would be. And let's get a little bit of white in there. I'll tell you what, I'll squeeze out some more white, because the white that we've got here is getting pretty muddy right now. So I'll squeeze out a little bit more white. Yeah, there's a little bit more white. Hopefully I'm not boring you all. I don't know. Still says there's 2 watching, so that's kind of cool. Great. So let's get some of this white, and let's mix it. Mix it with this this new chromatic black that I've mixed up with the thing, and that does actually, it does lean a little bit warm, but once again, let's. Sorry, I keep on bending over near the tablet camera because I'm picking up paint tubes off the floor. Let's just tilt this a little bit towards the brown. Some more brown there. Some more burnt sienna. and tilt this a little bit towards the burnt sienna. Clean that off my brush because that's enough burnt sienna, I think. It's a lot of burnt sienna. Right. So I mean that's tilted very, very brown now because of all that burnt sienna that's in there. So I mean, if you mix your black with burnt sienna, it's a lot easier to tilt it towards the brown. That's incredibly brown. Let's get a bit more of this mixed black that we've got to kind of grey it up a little bit there. There we go. We've got a bit more of a grey brown there. And brown is basically just grey orange. It's just orange but more grey. It's a more grey version of orange. But also, let's have a look at. Let's just so here's my burnt sienna and ultramarine again, and we will get some white in there, and then we'll get some blue as well. Let's tilt this a little bit blue. Let's tilt it more grey. And I think I've just seemed like the black made with the burnt sienna seems to have a little bit less of a tinting strength than the. So this black that was made with the burnt umber and the ultramarine blue seems to have a higher. No, sorry. Yeah, a higher tinting strength than this black, which is made with the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue, I would say. And I think that might be because I think burnt sienna is a little bit more of a transparent pigment. Let's just get a little bit more of this pure black because I realize none of this is pure. So this is that's just straight from the pile of the mixed. So we've got this is the burnt sienna and ultramarine blue black. But that's kind of largely similar to this, I would say. I think there's things you could probably swap this out for this and you'll be all right. They're largely similar. I think the kind of brownish grey that you get from the one of the burnt sienna is going to be a little bit more red leaning, because I think burnt sienna is just a tiny little bit more saturated, I would say, than burnt umber, and a tiny bit more leaning towards the red. But anyway, the thing is I kind of think if you are going to kind of go for the option of mixing a black rather than having a black on your palette, I think the whole point in doing that is to kind of make you a bit more creative in the way that you darken your colors. And the thing is, if you have just a kind of go-to chromatic black mixture, like a burnt umber and an ultramarine, or a burnt sienna and an ultramarine, essentially, in some ways, you could say that you might as well just have black paint because you're not really being creative in how you darken your colors. You're just using the same mixture all the time. So I think in a bit what we're going to do is we're going to kind of experiment with other ways that you can darken colors that aren't using any kind of chromatic blacks or anything. But before we go into that, one thing I do want to try is a black mixture that I've never actually used in my own painting, but I've heard works, and that is mixing these two paints together. So we've got some quinacridone magenta, and we've got phthalo green there. Now, what you'll all know, well, I don't know whether you all know, maybe not all of you will know this, but green and red are opposite each other on the color wheel, and magenta is kind of red, so it makes sense that these two colors would cancel each other out. Let's give it a shot. So I'm gonna swap these around again, and let's see what we come up with here. And this is going to be kind of interesting because these are both very saturated, bright colors, whereas the other colors we were dealing with were very kind of desaturated colors. I mean, I guess ultramarine is, you know, a bit more saturated, but definitely burnt umber and burnt sienna are very desaturated. Whereas these, the quinacridone magenta and the phthalo green, are incredibly bright, saturated colors. In fact, I just want to kind of put some of this down onto the thing, just how it is, just to show you what we're working with here. So that's some phthalo green there, and if I put a little bit of white in there as well, you'll really see. Look at how bright that is. Look at how saturated that is. Really bright, striking, cold, mint green there, you know. There we go. And then also we've got, I'll just clean off my brush. We've got this quinacridone magenta here. Once again, very bright, very striking. Put a little bit of white in there. Once again, I'll bring it out even more. Look at that. Look at how bright that is. Very bright pink there, very vivid. You get a nice hot pink as well if you add a teeny bit more warmth into there, like maybe a teeny little bit of yellow in there to warm it up. Or even a teeny bit of a warmer red, like a cadmium red, for example, or something like that. But anyway, let's see what black these two things. Let's see what black these two make when they're mixed together, because in theory they are supposed to make black, and it doesn't surprise me that much that would be the case. Hold on, I need to clean this palette knife because there is already black on this palette knife, so I'll just wipe that off. There we go. And let's mix these together. Start with a little bit of that because it seems like there's a lot more quinacridone magenta on this palette than there is phthalo green. So I'll start with a little bit of that, but it still seems to be very green. So let's just yeah, screw it. Let's just mix the whole lot of it together. And let's see what we can get here with this. It seems to be very green actually. This does seem to tilt very much towards the green. I'm just yeah, that's very tilted towards the green. But it does seem to be doing a pretty decent job of making it black. Let's put this down on the gessoed paper there. The paper that that's just a really cheap bit of paper from a cheap A3 sketchbook that I've kind of put gesso on myself. It's just kind of black and white gesso mixed together to make grey. And put some of this down. There we go. And that's leaning very yeah, it's leaning very, I said leaning towards the green obviously, but it's interesting how it looks more blue, isn't it? So so I mean, one thing that's quite interesting here is like I'm sure you've all heard of the kind of alternative primary colors, CMYK, most famous for being used in printing, but a lot of artists use those primary colors now as well, to varying degrees. Now, if you're into the idea of CMYK, I think this is a good cyan to use. This is PG50, and it tends to have a different name depending on what manufacturer you get it from. This is a Sennelier one, and it's called Turquoise Light if you get it from Sennelier, but other companies have different names for it. Some people call it Cobalt Turquoise, some people call it I think Cobalt Teal, sorry, not Cobalt Turquoise. But it tends to have a different name, and it's pigments like that where the pigment code actually comes in useful, because you can sort of see what you're getting if you have something with a different pigment code. But anyway, what I was going to say, sorry, is if you were using a CMY primary colors, cyan, magenta, and yellow, if you were going to get blue, what you would do is you would mix your kind of cyan type color, your very kind of cold greenish kind of blue, with your magenta color to make like blue in between. Now, what I find interesting here is that the phthalo green, which is a color I don't usually use, I don't usually have this one on my palette. Like I'll often have, usually in terms of primary colors, I'll usually have, like a warm and a cold version of every primary, which means that I'll have like an ultramarine as my warm blue, and I might have either a Prussian blue or a turquoise light, PG50, as my cold blue. I don't tend to have the phthalo green out of my palette very often, but what I've realized from doing this, I don't have that much experience with the phthalo green, but what I've realized is that this phthalo green works sort of like a cold blue almost, because I guess it's a green that leans towards blue, so I guess it works almost a little bit like a cyan or a turquoise or a teal or whatever, and it's not that surprising, but it's kind of like it's still a kind of pleasant thing to see demonstrated. But anyway, if we want to kind of lean this further towards being a more neutral black, what we can do is we can just keep adding magenta to it, I guess. So let's do that. Add some more magenta to it. How many of you are watching right now? Let's have a look. Still two. My loyal listeners there. I mean, my loyal watchers. I wonder if like one of those people is probably me, isn't it? I think. Yeah, okay. Well, the other person who's watching, glad you're here. Let's see. I think this is still tilting a little bit blue. Hang on, I'll just put like a load of. We'll put like a load of quinacridone the quinacridone magenta. I'll put like a load of this in there. We'll kind of let's put a load of this in. Wasting paint here by using so much of it, but you sometimes do that when you're mixing colours, especially if you're kind of mixing new mixtures that you haven't really done that much before. Let's grab some more of that, mix it in here, and we've got right here, which is is this going to lean more purple if I'm going to do it this way? I think that's going to lean more purple. It's kind of like a very dark purple here. Probably looks brown to some of you, but that's because when purple is very desaturated and very dark, it almost looks brown. Yeah, that's what it's going to look like if it's lean more towards the leaning more towards the quinacridone magenta. Oh, just knocked the camera there. Hope I didn't get paint on the camera. No, it looks alright. So we've got that there. And if I grab a little white, you will see that that is leaning very, very purple. So yeah, it's a very dark purple there, but it's interesting how these two aren't really desaturating each other. Which leads me to think that maybe you can't get like a perfect black out of these two because they're not really desaturating each other. But we'll carry on trying to mix them together. Let's mix a little bit more of these together, and let's try and see if we can mix something that's like an exact point between the two of them. I'm just trying to work out in my head whether that actually seems like it would be possible or not. Because if they're kind of if they're adding hue to each other, then does that mean they're not really cancelling each other out? I don't know. Running out of space on my palette. Is there a middle ground between these two? This is a kind of slightly bluer purple there. Some more of that. See if we can kind of mix this up even more. Okay, so that's I'm going to guess that somewhere around here is where the middle point is between the two of these colors. Let's just clean off my brush and let's clean off my brush and let's actually have a go at this and see what we get. There we go. It's quite a nice black. I mean, I do like it. It's not. I mean, you can tell it's not completely exactly black. I mean, it's not like the most pure black in the world, but it's definitely a nice black. I mean, yeah, you can see it's kind of leaning a little bit blue. So I think what I've worked out from actually trying this, because up until now I've only just read about the fact that you can kind of get it black from mixing quinacridone magenta and phthalo green. But what I've worked out by actually trying it is, I mean, you definitely get a dark enough color that it can be used as a decent black, but it's not quite neutral. It's always going to kind of have a lean on it in one direction or another. But like I said, the whole point in mixing your own black is sort of so that you can kind of, you know, have more interesting, rich blacks with different colors coming through. So yeah. Um, oh, did I just? I think I literally just touched the lens of the camera with my brush, but luckily I've cleaned off my brush, so I don't think it's gotten the lens too dirty. If this was a different camera, I think I would be upset about that. The camera that I was going to use to shoot short films or something like that, I would be very upset that my brush would just, because even the teeny little bits of paint that I left inside the bristles could potentially get a lens all minging. But I think so. This camera is just a GoPro basically, and like GoPros are sort of, I think that the glass on the lens is more resistant to being dirtied up than a fancy lens would be. I don't know. Anyway, what am I going to do next? Right. Okay. So we've tried a few different blacks. I think what I want to do next then is I just want to like mess around with like the idea of like how could you like darken a color if you wanted to darken a color more creatively rather than just using a black, because I think that's kind of one of the things that you want to kind of think about if you kind of when you're talking about these kinds of things is like you know, like why aren't you using black? You know what I mean? Because like surely the whole point in it is to you know make your darks more interesting. You know what I mean? So I guess if you want to make your darks more interesting, why not just not use any kind of black mixture? You know what I mean? So I'm gonna kind of squeeze out some red here, and this is a kind of fake cadmium red there. Um, this is quite a warm red. And one thing that I think is cool with red, if you're going to kind of darken red, is you can get a color that's sort of similar to red to darken it with. So, for example, you can get some burnt sienna. Oh, bloody hell! There's so much of that just came out. Damn. Can I get some more? Then put it back in the tube. Yeah, back inside. Does that work? No, I don't think it does. Damn, I just accidentally squeezed out a load of that there, which is annoying because as you can see, it's starting to get low, that tube. Yeah, I do use burnt sienna a fair amount. Mind, I will say these tubes of like these kind of big tubes, they do last a long time. So, I mean, you might have heard people talk about how expensive oil paint is. It really depends on the pigment. The pigment is the thing that you're spending money on. Wow, I've just kind of mixed them in equal quantities, which isn't what I wanted to do, to kind of maybe get a little bit of the red and kind of, let's get just a touch of this red here, move it over here. So you can kind of like, you know, darken up your red with some burnt sienna there. And obviously that's not neutral, but that's not what I was intending to do, is make it neutral. You can kind of, I mean, it desaturates it. But if you mix black into red, it would also desaturate it. But let's get, I'm just going to get a teeny bit more of this red actually, because I think I've ruined that red there. And then I'm knocking the camera a little bit. There we go. And so let's say if you were painting something that was red, and let's just paint something red here. I'm just using these straight from the tube. This is how I tend to paint, and it's a perfectly fine way to paint. But if you want to make the paint a little bit more fluid, you can use some linseed oil or some. So let's say if, for example, I wanted to kind of darken that. Let's just put it flow underneath it. I'm going to do the whole sphere thing, which is perhaps like not the best thing to do now because it's possibly going to take too long. So maybe it's not demonstrating the colors that well. Whatever. Let's see. So I'm going to do the back. I'm just using the colors that I've got already. Actually, this is kind of possibly a good demonstration actually of the colors, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of do the background a little bit more blue. So I've used that kind of black, which is the mixture of the this ground plane is going to be the I'm doing this with the mixture of the phthalo green. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by my paint. I'm not really talking very much. Yeah, this ground plane is the mixture of the phthalo green and the quinacridone magenta. And I'm gonna use a teeny bit of burnt umber here for the front, maybe. No, that's not gonna work. Hold on. I'll grab a teeny bit of a different color altogether. Let's use a little bit of yellow. God, this yellow is very oily. Right. And let's just put a little bit of this yellow down the front to kind of warm up that front there. So there's a little bit of atmospheric perspective going on here. I've kind of warmed up the front of the ground plane and made the background a little bit cooler. And anyway, now that we've made like a little ground plane for this red ball, let's kind of mess around with turning this red ball into a sphere here. See if I can still do this little basic test that everyone can do, but I'm just trying to do live on the stream. It's probably so. Let's just do one darker. Possibly not dark enough. Hang on, do a little bit more there. More sort of darker side to the sphere here, and I'll grab a little bit of the pure burnt sienna there instead of the and you can see that kind of works pretty nicely for sort of darkening up that thing, and then we'll kind of try and do a shadow here on the floor. And then, so that burnt sienna kind of works quite nicely for the darkening red, and that's something I've often found when I've painted, especially if I'm using like a especially if I'm using a warm red. Grab a teeny bit of white, and I'm going to put like a little bit of a highlight on there. I'm not going to use the white on its own. The white will make the red go more pink, which is fine. But sometimes I think because pink kind of stands out to us so much, like sometimes it can be a bit too much. So I'm going to mix this. That's probably not the best angle here from this camera, but like I've got some white with some kind of orangey yellow mixed in. This is the yellow is Yellow Lake Deep, which I think is a cheaper alternative to cadmium yellow. Doesn't have the exact same characteristics as cadmium yellow, but certainly is cheaper and it does the job. So, I mean, obviously it's a yellow that leans towards the orange quite a lot, but that can be good sometimes. I've also got a colder yellow that I use as well. But, anyway, let's put a little bit of a highlight on here. Right, I'm going to blend that out a little bit. I might come back and put another one in because sometimes what I tend to do is blend out highlights a bit too much. But yeah, we've got one right there. Which, yeah, I've blended out too much, so I'm going to kind of just come in and put a bit more of a highlight back in there again. Right, if I blended that out too much. No, it looks alright on the camera, I think. And I think with this shadow, I think I want to make that shadow a bit darker. So what should I do? Should I use pure black or should I? No, I should be more creative, shouldn't I? Let's see. I was going to be more creative with this. So what I think I'll do is I think I'll use. Where's it gone? Should I use ultramarine blue? I misplaced my ultramarine blue. Oh, there it is. Right. Actually, there's still no ultramarine blue on the other palette, so grab some of that ultramarine blue and let's make a little shadow here. And the ultramarine blue is going to mix with the other colors to make it more of a black. And there we go. There's a bit of a sphere there for you. Could even make the shadow a bit bigger actually. Something like that. Anyway, that's kind of a rough sphere there. But anyway, this stream wasn't supposed to be about drawn spheres. But the point that I was trying to make there is that, like, look, there's plenty of ways that you can make colors darker without using black. Let's kind of mess around a little bit more. We'll get some blue here. I'll just swap these around. And this time I'm not going to do a sphere because I don't want this stream to be too long. Let's grab. See what? I'll just lay this on the palette. Yeah. No, maybe not like that. Just falling off the table and got everything covered in paint. Oh no, it's the joy of disposable palettes. I do have a wooden palette as well, but I wanted to use like a white palette for this video so that you can all see the colors against the white. Although white is not the best color for showing mixes because it makes your mixes look a lot darker in comparison to the white. But anyway, so we've got blue there. Now let's just kind of think of some more creative ways to make the blue darker. The blue is already quite dark. Okay, I think we only have one person watching now. I wonder if that one person is me. One watching now. I wonder if that's me. Hold on. I'll exit YouTube and I'll see if it goes down to 0. No, it seems to still be on 1. Okay, there must still be a person watching, so that's good. Thank you, my one watcher. Wow, it's like 1 hour and 90 minutes. I did not think that this stream was going to be that long, but I've dilly-dallied around so much and yabbed on. So we've got some blue here. How would you make blue darker without using black? I mean, kind of obvious, isn't it? You would just get some brown, I guess. But then, what if you didn't want to use brown? I guess you could use some red and some yellow and mix a kind of orange. And I mean, that's hopefully going to desaturate the blue and kind of make it more deep, but no, it hasn't. It's just completely overpowered the thing. But then, if you wanted to salvage that, you could just grab some more blue, put more blue over there. More blue again. I think the problem with the using orange is a lighter color and value, so it does desaturate it, but it doesn't necessarily make it darker. But you could kind of, what you could do, I guess, is you could kind of mix up a kind of blue and orange color together like that. And then you could use that to kind of use that as your black or your dark, and then you could get your blue and use that alongside there. I've gotten that blue too muddy, haven't I? Hold on. Some more blue from the tube. Yeah. Trying to like keep the end of the tube clean-ish, but it's not working. Let's see. So if we get some more blue there, and you can't really see that because it's too dark anyway. Let's get a bit more white, and we're getting paint all over my pajama trousers here. That's all right. They're just pajama trousers. Let's get some more white, and let's. So we've got our blue there, and then as I go up, you see it gets more desaturated with a bit more of the orange in it. Grab some more of this color here, which I made from the blue with the orange. And I've actually lightened that accidentally because I had lots of white in my brush. Hold on. I'm running into the same issue. Right. Nice blend up here. Right, now I don't know whether that is actually darker in value or just more desaturated, but you know, I guess the way to darken blue is to just desaturate the blue. But to be honest, that was a bit of a stupid experiment anyway, I think, because you know, ultramarine blue straight from the tube is pretty damn dark anyway. That's a little bit lighter because there's still some white on my brush, but um, yeah, it's pretty damn dark anyway. So I guess a better thing would be like, let's see, we're like, I don't know, using some turquoise light Oh, there's 0 people watching now. Yeah, I think that one person still watching was me. Okay, so turquoise light, and then you kind of use that, and then you want to get it kind of sort of so you can darken the value a little bit. Kind of put the darker value up there, and then you're kind of in the same color family still, but you're a little bit darker. I mean, to be honest, some of these things are just common sense. I don't know why I'm going all over all these things with you. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, we've kind of what we have done there. I think one last thing that I might do before I end this stream. So we've kind of, just to recap, we've explored a lot of things. We've explored. Okay, there's a few things I can think we could do before we end this stream actually. So we've explored, you know, a chromatic black that's using burnt umber and ultramarine. We've explored lamp black straight from the tube, and you know, tinting those, making them warmer and cooler, etc. We've explored burnt sienna mixed with ultramarine, making that warmer and cooler, and we've explored phthalo green and quinacridone magenta, mixing that, various different shades. Then we've messed around with, you know, doing like a sphere there and not using any black in it at all, and just kind of using the burnt sienna and the quinacridone magenta for the ground, and a little bit of yellow at the front, a little bit of yellow lake deep at the front, just to make it warmer at the front, give it a little bit more atmospheric perspective, and you know, basically doing a sphere with a shadow without using any black paint. I think one thing that we could do, and then we've messed around with, you know, desaturating the ultramarine blue, making it more brown with by mixing orange into it, and sort of messing around with that a little bit. We've messed around with taking a turquoise and mixing some ultramarine blue in it as a way of maybe making it darker. I mean, it does change the hue, obviously, but it does make it darker. It is an option. Don't imagine that you're not going to change the hue with black paint. But I think what we could do to kind of cap this off, there was more than one thing that I wanted to do, but I think one thing that I do want to do is I want to kind of compare using black. So let's just do like a mixture of black with so this is lamp black and turquoise. Make like a greyish turquoise. So that's what happens when you darken the turquoise with the lamp black. What I can also do is I can take this turquoise, and I'll try and get it from a part where it's not been muddied already. Take this turquoise, and I can try and darken it with the other colours. So, for example, we've already darkened it with this. What we could do is we could darken it with a combination of the ultramarine blue, which we've already done, and the burnt sienna, and just see what that does compared to, well, that burnt sienna has just completely overpowered it, hasn't it? So the burnt sienna has added some more hue to that there. We could kind of get a bit more of that, just to kind of try and get some more of that turquoise hue back into it again. And kind of brought out the green, the yellow, and the because brown tends to have some yellow hues to it, so that's kind of mixed together and brought out the green of the turquoise a little bit more. Could we neutralize that? Maybe if we put some more blue in there. That's interesting. Okay, so the lamp black with the turquoise has kind of just basically made the turquoise a bit darker and graded up slightly, whereas this one has made the turquoise turn a complete like greenish darker color. So this has really changed the hue, and this is with adding burnt sienna and an ultramarine to it. Although I didn't get that straight from my mixed pile. I just picked them up individually on my brush. It shouldn't make too much of a difference when you do that. Let's get some more of this turquoise here. And let's let's try and darken this turquoise. And put more of this turquoise down here. And let's try and darken that with I'm going to go into my mixed, this is my mixed black that I made from, pull this over a bit so you can see it better. This is my mixed black that I made from burnt umber and ultramarine. And let's just kind of mix this into this and see what it does to it. Let's clean off my brush there. And it's kind of largely had the same effect, actually. I think this was because I picked the colors up on my brush individually, which meant that it maybe tilted a lot towards the burnt sienna, whereas this one, yeah, that's much more neutral kind of darkening, and kind of darkened it and turned it a bit more grey as well. So I think really what we've learned today, just to sum up, is something that I probably could have guessed before I started, which is that there's no bloody difference between no, I'm kidding. Yeah, if you mix a chromatic black using any of the kind of standard combinations that you would use to do that, like using burnt umber and an ultramarine blue, essentially you're going to get something, if you look at this, which is very similar to the way that the color gets darkened if you just use lamp black straight from the tube. You know, this is kind of very similar to this, and this, which is lamp black straight from the tube, and I've mixed it with either some burnt umber or some ultramarine blue, is very similar to this, which is a mixture of burnt umber and ultramarine blue. On this side, it's mixed with more burnt umber. Down here, it's mixed with more ultramarine blue, and they're very similar. So I think the idea that mixing a black is like always better than using black from the tube isn't true. to me, there doesn't seem to be that much difference. But where I think that there is some value in that whole idea of you should always mix your own black rather than using it from the tube is, I think, when it comes to being more creative, really, with the way that you darken your colors. You know, I think if you want to darken a color, I think it sometimes pays to kind of just mess around with, you know, different ways of darkening the color. You know what I mean? Like if you want to darken your green, try and mix some blue into it. I mean, it is going to change the hue. It is going to make the hue more blue. Or you can try and kind of mix some more of a kind of muddy color into the green to kind of muddy it up a bit, to kind of, which is going to kind of change the value, but it's also going to change the hue as well. You know, things like that. You know, things like just kind of, you know, being open-minded to the idea of changing the hue as well as like changing the value rather than just changing the value. And then being a bit more creative in the way that you kind of add different hues to the hue you're working with in order to achieve a darker value. You know, things like that can kind of can be good ideas to mess around with. And I guess the whole kind of not mixing your black thing, really, if there is any wisdom in that, I think it's just basically in trying to kind of get you to be more creative with your colors. But if you're always mixing the black in the same way, that then you're not really achieving that much from painting in that way. You just, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, it saves you from having to buy some black paint on the one hand. So you could say it's saving you money, but then at the same time you're going to go through your blue and your brown paint a lot quicker because you're going to be using them for your black as well. But yeah, so in conclusion, using black from the tube is perfectly fine. You know, it's good, it's quite fun. It's, you know, I like lamp black. I think lamp black is a nice pigment, you know what I mean? And like I said, lamp black dries much more slowly than burnt umber, which is a plus side for me because I used to use burnt umber and ultramarine for my black all the time. And I think the reason why I've kind of stopped doing that a lot more recently and started using the lamp black a lot more is basically because I got tired of how bloody quickly the burnt umber was making everything dry. You know, the second you put burnt umber into something, it will make the thing dry very quickly. You know what I mean? Like, even if you've got a lot of like, you know, like titanium white is quite a slow drying pigment, but you could have like, you know, a mix that was primarily titanium white with only a teeny bit of burnt umber in it, but that teeny bit of burnt umber is going to make the whole mix just dry a hell of a lot quicker because that's the thing about burnt umber. It's just it's a dry, you know what I mean? It makes your colors dry quicker. So yeah, I mean, if you're a new oil painter, I would say don't worry too much about things like that. My experience of the whole fat over lean rule, which I'll probably go into in a different stream if I keep on doing these streams, is that basically when it comes to fat over lean, you just have to like not take the piss with it. You know what I mean? Like, don't do something like really ridiculous, like, you know, like doing like a really oily layer of, you know, with loads of linseed oil and then start painting some, you know, a layer that's really thinned out with mineral spirits over the top of it. You know what I mean. Don't take the piss with it, but I don't think phthalo is such an issue that you would have to worry about the drying time of the pigments too much. But at the same time, if you are if you've been painting for a while and you kind of exploring pigments a little bit more, sometimes I think the drying time of the pigment is something that you start thinking about a bit more, and you start, using the burnt umber more for the lower layers and other pigments for the higher layers. And it's at that point where maybe using something like lamp black might come in useful, because lamp black, it's an easy way to darken things. It's an easy way to darken the value, and it's also quite slow drying. So yeah, so in conclusion, there is no conclusion. No, yeah, that whole lot was my final thoughts. Anyway, I think I'm going to end this stream now, because it's been a long stream, way longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought I would be able to get into it a lot quicker, but whatever. I think when I started, I think the hearing my voice coming out with the headphones was kind of putting us off. So yeah, I didn't get into it quite as quick as I wanted to, but also I think just mixing colors and messing around with paint kind of takes a long time anyways. Yeah, so it has been a long stream. But if any of you end up watching this, I think this will become a video on YouTube after I finish the stream. I don't think it'll just disappear. So there's literally 0 people watching it right now. But still might be worth having it up on the channel in case anybody wants to watch it. Oh, what the hell was I gonna say? Yeah, I think I might do some more streams like this. I'm probably, if anybody watching this is actually familiar with my YouTube channel, I used to make videos like years and years ago, like about 2 years ago or something like that, and I haven't done any since then. I wasn't really planning on doing any more, if I'm honest. But I've ended up making a stream just because I thought it would be kind of cool to just do like a stream about some of these things that I'm thinking about, like color mixing and stuff. And to maybe do some more streams like this. Just because it's kind of fun. I've kind of abandoned all of my kind of aspirations to become like a YouTuber who actually has subscribers and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I do have subscribers. I think I've got about 200 at the minute, which is really cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy with those 200 people, but I'm not like trying to like get up to like 1,000 subscribers or anything like that. Like I used to be when I was, doing YouTube back in the day. I'm more just doing a stream like this because I think it's kind of fun, really. You know what I mean? I think I watch a lot of art streams where they have conversations about color mixing and stuff like that. And what I've realized is that in the few years that I've been painting, I have actually kind of, developed some knowledge in color mixing and color theory and stuff like that. And I have developed some opinions on that as well, which means that like when I see other videos where people are talking about color mixing and stuff like that, I tend to have opinions about it. Hold on, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just make this try and make myself. All right, hang on. Right, I'll do that. Yeah, I forgot that the tablet is the second thing, so I can't make like this side bigger. Like I want to sort of do it where this is like smaller and this is bigger, but this is about as far as I can get. Yeah, so I'm not really trying to like grow this channel. It would be nice if more than one person watched this video. I don't know, but like, yeah, but otherwise I'm not really bothered. I think the thing that eventually made me like not want to do YouTube videos again when I stopped doing them was just the fact that like I remember it kind of annoyed me when I found out that like YouTube had changed its terms of service so that like it could put adverts on your videos even if you hadn't allowed it to put adverts on your videos. Like it used to be that in order for videos to turn up on a YouTube video, the YouTuber who actually made that video would have to like you know agree to putting adverts on the videos, whereas now that's not the case. YouTube can just put ads on whatever videos it wants and it's not really bothered. And that kind of pissed me off. Because I was always planning on like not putting ads on my videos. And I don't know, it seems like a bit of a dumb thing, but I remember that kind of pissed me off when I was doing YouTube back in the day. Also, I'm probably not going to get back into doing edited videos again. It's probably all going to be like streams if I do make videos. Because for two reasons. First of all, is because I can't really be asked to edit videos for YouTube. It takes a long time. Can't be bothered. Also, it takes a long time to upload videos. I mean, to be fair, um, now that I'm living in a different area, like when I used to make videos, I was still living with my parents. Whereas now I'm living in a downstairs council flat, and I'm living closer to the city centre, which means faster internet speeds, faster upload speeds, etc., etc. So the YouTube videos probably aren't going to take forever to upload like they used to when I was living with my parents. So that's a good thing. But yeah, still can't be asked to be editing all those videos. And the second reason, I said there's two reasons why I probably wasn't going to be doing edited videos. The second reason is because I just can't really afford to like subscribe to like Premiere Pro. And I'm guessing there probably is like a free editing software or like a software that I just have to pay for once that I can use, but I don't know about that software and it'll be a funny on to learn how to use it. So like I don't want to pay for Premiere Pro, so like therefore editing videos is kind of out of the question. I just because I don't really have an editor that I can use that I you know that I wouldn't have to pay for. You know what I mean? Like Premiere Pro, you have to like subscribe to it and stuff and pay like I think it's about like 30 quid a month or something like that, or like 25 quid a month or something like that. It's quite expensive, and to be honest, I already I already pay for Photoshop and InDesign. So like if I get Premiere Pro on top of that, it's gonna be bloody expensive. So yeah, fuck that. Pardon my French. But anyway, yeah, that's a quick rundown of why I haven't really made YouTube videos for a bit. Not really bothered whether you like or subscribe. But I did get used to saying that at the end of my old videos. So like it does pop into my head. Like when the thing I don't know what the hell I would do if I got a lot of subscribers, to be honest. So I'm not really bothered. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. And I'm gonna count you out because if YouTube does put an advert at the end of this video, I think like I know from watching YouTube myself that I like to try and escape the video before I get before I end up in the stupid advert that they put on the end of the video. So I'll count you out. So we've got I'll end the stream in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. Bye bye. Oh, hold on.